I've had people like this the whole time, and I'm like, hopefully that's picking it
not
up,
gonna
and
pick
it still
it up.
does.
Then you got the guys that are eating the mic.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Today we're here again on the Bold 1% with Eric. Super excited. We're going to talk about the nitty gritty, which is just going to be diving deep into these agent stories. Each of these agents I picked today are picked for a particular reason because I feel like they have a fantastic story to share. Eric probably has the most exciting story. So that's why we put him.
Are you gonna ask?
That's why we put him first.
Okay.
But yeah. So and honestly, like the biggest part about this is it's just a good conversation.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, it's just to talk about the market and also be thinking in the back of your mind, like, what can we use like a snippet from this and turn into a social media post that's going to be good for your viewers? Because sometimes we make videos for the agents and they're like, this is really good, but like, I can't tell this to my clients.
Yeah. Anything I'd say, I'll say right to my client. So I'm an open book on that.
So let's just start with like a brief overview so they can catch up to kind of where I'm at.
Okay.
Knowing your story. It seems like a lot of people, when they step into life, maybe like 20, 25, 30, whenever they get into their career, it was something that they chose.
Okay.
But a common theme that I've seen with real estate agents is it's like they never it was like almost like this chose them. You know what I mean? It was like you pulled the sword from the stone. It wasn't like I want that.
Yeah. That definitely was for me. I was actually kind of forced into it. I've told you the story and stuff, but I was kind of forced into it. I had a friend that's been in real estate forever. I think he's 20 years now or something like that. I wasn't going to name names.
Oh, my bad.
I don't want to call him out.
Bleep it.
Okay, bleep it. He just doesn't like the story sometimes.
Okay.
But anyways, he had a good friend, been doing real estate forever, and he wanted to get me into it. And he's asked me forever, it's like, hey, you should come do this, you should come do this, you should come do this.
And like for this friend, he's not like a very pushy person.
No, he's
not.
So
was he being pushy in this regard? Or?
Well,
and his name's going to be bleeped, so it doesn't matter now.
Yeah. Bleep. No, he was never pushy on it. And I never really wanted to because I never understood really what real estate was, or the perception of what I always saw, which I still think is a huge issue right now because a lot of agents are this, is they're, to put it nicely, they're good agents, they're honest, but they stick to the very, this sounds mean, but like door openers. That's all they kind of are. And that's not bad. It's just that's their style on things. And so I never wanted to get into real estate. I was an automotive guy, and so I owned my own business. And
was there already a perception in your mind about real estate?
Yeah, I hated it.
Really?
Like I literally did not want to do it because I was thinking in my mind, used car salesman. Like that is what a real estate agent is. That's that. And my dealings, that's what it was like. And the people who I knew, even growing up in Vegas and other places, that's who they were. Like they were just kind of like, there was no real value there. Yeah. Which I still see that today. Anyways.
Like what percentage of agents would you say probably still falls into that
I'd say
category?
80%.
So it's like a high, like the perception is there for a reason.
It is. Yeah. And
it's almost like you have to fight against that grain.
Well, and it's not, like I said, it's to come back and saying that doesn't mean that they're bad people.
Yeah.
Or that they're not trying. It's just they don't take it as serious or understand the potential consequences of what you're doing. The reason you're having a real estate agent is to protect you. One is to protect you from legal issues. I mean, you're buying something, typically the person's most expensive transaction that they're ever going to do in their life.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to make sure what you're doing is, one, accurate and you're being protected by it. The other side of it is to offer information and different choices that may be in a different direction that you didn't think of. And offering, a lot of people don't know what they do, like or what they're wanting. They don't know they don't even know the questions to ask because it's like a lot of people only will buy every 10 years, know? So if it's their first transaction, you've never bought a house yet.
Yeah.
So like,
you don't know
you've worked with real estate agents doing what you're doing, but there's still questions that you're like, I didn't even know I should ask that question.
You don't even know the lingo. Like you like start getting into it and you're like, I don't know what any of this means. And everyone's like throwing out these words and you're like, what does that mean?
So that kind of came out where I was at, where I got forced into it, where he wanted me to help run some real estate stuff. And he signed me up for class and said, hey, I really don't care if you do this full time. I just need you to be licensed so we can be legal on some consulting.
Okay, so what was the like push, do you think, for that agent? Like, why did he want you so bad? And like, honestly, kudos to him for like seeing that potential in you.
It took 7 years for him to do.
No way.
Yeah.
So like, it's pretty crazy that like he was like pushing it and you were like, nah. And then eventually you're just like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and I'm a people person. I don't have a problem with conflict. I don't have a problem with asking tough questions. I don't have a problem with getting what the real answers that is needed. Mm-hmm. And I think that was kind of more what was seen.
Okay.
I said, I've ran my own business. I've dealt with people. I've dealt with conflict. I've been in the, managing other people inside. And so I think that's kind of what it was. And still at the time, like I said, I just said, sure, whatever, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't quit my other job. Like,
okay, you were doing both.
So I did. I literally did just for what he wanted as far as the consulting side, to be legal with having a license. Mm. And I went to a lunch with some investors where I got brought along for a lunch. And I didn't even want to go to that. But my buddy, this other guy, said, hey, dude, it's free lunch. My other friend backed out. Come and sit. Just have lunch, man. And so I showed up. And we sat there at the lunch. It's this Japanese place in downtown Salt Lake. I don't remember the exact name, but I could take you there.
Nice.
But anyways, we sat there, and this was 6 years ago. Uh-huh. And this was about 9 months after I got my license.
Okay.
And
so pretty new.
Still pretty new. And we chatted, and I don't even think I ate lunch. Like I remember just being like awestruck of listening and going, this is real estate? Like, we can do this? Holy cow, that's legal? We can dream up contracts and make and do all of this crazy stuff.
And your creative side of the brain was probably just like, dude, it was on cocaine.
Yeah, it was going nuts. And I'm like, this I can get behind. And I remember I went and found the same guy afterwards, and we had another one-on-one meeting, because I was like, I heard this correct. Like, this is what we can actually do as real estate. And he's like, yeah. And I went, okay. And I went home to my wife, and we put a business up for sale, and I jumped both feet into real estate. Whoa. And went, this is fun, and opened my eyes from what I thought and what I was my perception from the people who I've dealt with to just dramatic. And then you start seeing those top 1% agents or those top 5%, and they know how to discuss the contracts. They know how to discuss and work out a deal and making something work for both parties. Or you're looking at the investment side or portfolio side or seller finance side. Like, it just blew up at that point. I went, this is cool. I can get behind this.
Dang. So like, what do you feel like shifted in your mind to going like, did you think it was boring and then you like realized there was a lot more to it? Or was it that you just like what was that like click?
Really realizing like I said, during that lunch, realizing that it wasn't just opening a door for somebody who's like, hey, I want to buy a house. Okay, cool. Here's an email. Pick which homes you like. Yeah. And I'll open the door for you. Like, that's all kind of, I thought it was, and the agent writes out the contract, but they're basically just checking boxes. Yeah. And then I close on the home, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And during that lunch, it was like, no, like,
there's a lot.
Yes, that's what happens, like in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. But what about asking the client, why are you wanting to buy here? what is your idea? Hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Coming from Vegas, a thing for Utah is basement apartments. Okay. Yeah. You don't have that in Vegas.
Oh, really?
Like, that's not a thing. Well, one, you don't have basements.
Okay.
For the most part.
Why is that? Because of flooding or?
No, the ground's just too hard.
Really?
It's just too hard to dig.
Whoa.
It's too expensive to dig.
Okay.
So you go up or you go out. And so you just, but I mean, there are homes that have them. But once again, like I didn't know a single person, and I grew up there, that had ever had a basement apartment or a casita or a little accessory dwelling unit. Nobody. And then here, like, presenting that to a client going, hey, have you thought about maybe picking something up that has the ability to rent out part of it to help supplement the income or the mortgage, or to start looking at building a portfolio? Have you thought about that? No, I didn't know I could do it. I thought I had to be a millionaire to be invest in real estate.
Yeah.
And so, like, just asking those questions of going, hey, why do you want to buy in this location? Oh, well, this location is 25 minutes from my work. Okay, but have you thought about this location that's also 25 minutes?
Yeah, you draw up the circle and you're like, okay, well, that's...
Yeah, I mean, we have software that shows you your drive times. And they went, no, I never thought about that. I've always thought I wanted to be over here. Well, great. You still, like, 90% of you want to be over here. But let's go look at, like, 2 homes just so you know, because I'm a big believer of information is power. And you can't make educated decisions without having information to cross off and check off and compare.
Yeah.
So I take my clients over to here and go, what about this place? And sometimes they're like, yeah, I still don't want to be over here. But then I've also had one, I actually tricked the client. I got him in my car. I kidnapped him. Oh. We went to go look for homes. And he's going to see this. And
I'm like, this is definitely what we're turning into.
He did not want to be in Tooele County. Okay. Did not want to be, specifically told me. But I found a home that was just over the border, the point into Lake Point, that checked every one of his boxes that they wanted. And he's like, I'm not doing it. And I looked at the drive time. I looked at wherever he was at. I said, hey, let's go look at a couple places. And he's like, okay, cool. So I got him and his wife in the car. And I literally went the opposite direction. He's like, where are we going? Gosh. I said, I have to run a quick errand to stop something off real quick. Oh my gosh. And I drove him out to the house. And he was like halfway out there, he realized what I was doing. And he's like, are you kidding me? I told you I didn't want to do this. I said, dude, just trust me. You've trusted me for years in other business dealings. Funny. And we drove up to the house and he goes, I like this.
Really? Okay, so he was actually...
And then we looked at it. We went through the house. And then I said, hey, your homework for the next couple days, I want you to drive out here at rush hour. I want you to make this trip. See if you like it. And he did. And he went, I actually like this better driving here. And
that was smart.
We put it under contract the next, like, a couple days later after he made the drive. And he lives there to this day.
No way.
And the only reason is because I got him to say, hey, well, one, he didn't have a choice at the beginning. But 2,
not much of a negotiation there.
Yeah, well, I don't do that with every client, but I knew I could get away with it with this one. And but he got to see something to compare to. And that's the big thing. And that's where I think a good agent really does, is they're looking out for more. They're really looking out for that individual, and thinking broader and bigger and stuff like that. So, like, those ideas is kind of what, when I had that lunch, I saw that investor agent that was talking about, and I went, I didn't know you could do this. I didn't know we could do seller financing. I didn't know we could put a deal together and go, here, what do you want? Well, I want this, this, and this. Oh, well, we can deliver that to this. Hey, we can include this in the offer. I didn't know you could do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you could be very creative.
You start to personalize, you personalize every single aspect of it's the same. I think it sounds like it's like at the beginning it was like, you just thought it was the same process over and over again with no customization. But then you realized that it was like full customization.
Yeah, And that's the beauty of real estate. But that's also the tricky and the scary part.
Yeah.
Is you have,
because the more you customize, sometimes the more complicated it gets.
Well,
and so it takes someone that like really knows.
Well, that, and it opens up to potential more risk. And so you have to be able to really understand what you're doing and know what you can, where that line is to where, hey, I can't cross this line. You have to know these limits, which requires a lot more education, which requires a lot more learning, which requires really understanding where you can go so you can present this to your client and then inform them, hey, if we do this, here's your potential risks. Oh, okay. No, I don't want that. I want to go over here. Great, cool. But at least now they know, and they made that decision to go this direction. Yeah. And I think that's what really sets apart your 1%ers of your agents. I'm not a big numbers guy, like math guy. I don't know, but I know that like there's very few agents like in Utah that do more than like say 10 deals, 10 transactions a year.
No, I
think it's incredibly small.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff. And that's what sets those guys apart is they really look out for for their client. They don't just take a transaction. One of the things I've been most impressed with this past year is I had a couple agents reach out to me and say, hey, I've never done, like one was a luxury listing. Yeah. I have never done a luxury listing, but I have a client that wants me to do it. I'm just going to give it to somebody else. I said, no, partner with somebody who does.
Yeah.
You know, work with another agent. So I set him up with somebody else. I didn't take it because it wasn't where I needed to be at. And I said, hey, look, you're wanting to do this one in Park City. Here's a person that I know that's in Park City who's amazing. Work with them and learn that. Don't jeopardize your emotional connection or your relationship with that client because you got it for a reason. Yeah. But also don't do a disservice to that client by saying, I'll take that transaction, and you have no idea how to actually market their property correctly. And that's another big one is I see constantly, hey, what should I do here? Why are you asking Facebook? I'm not going to tell you. I'm the agent going to be on the other side. Like, do your client a service, and if you don't know how to do it, work with somebody else.
That's hilarious. So, that's actually hilarious. I was going to add, that's like the last thing I wanted to talk about actually was like in real estate, you interact with tons of agents, right? But in the end, like you're all kind of sharks. Obviously, like some of you are bigger sharks, some of you are small sharks that are going to be eaten. But how do you like treat/manage relationships with like your competition?
That's a good question. So I've had, it's kind of funny, and you'll get different answers, and you'll get ones who won't give you an answer. Yeah. The way that I do it is I look at like, okay, one, competition is great. Without competition, you're not growing, you're not doing better. You just, because it's easy. Why take an extra step if you don't have somebody that's competing against you? So when I meet these other agents or I'm on the other side of a transaction that would say a difficult one or whatnot, you know, I go to lunch with them or breakfast or whatnot and say, hey, we can't talk about the transaction because that's still confidential. Really? To your clients. It's super, even though it's closed, unless your clients give you authorization to still talk about it, you can't. Okay. But you can talk hypotheticals about different stuff and just get to meet them. And then you learn stuff. Like I've learned a ton of things from other agents. Like I try to partner with a lot of different people because yes, we may be against each other, but at the same time, really what are you doing for your client? Like you sign your contracts, whether you're buying or selling, is you're there to give your client the best possible deal that they are wanting. So if I know that this agent on the other side is doing this, this, and this, and we know each other, we both know, hey, this guy's going to ask for this, this guy's going to do this. Let's work it out. Let's find an actual real deal. Because to just steamroll somebody else, really, what are you doing? Like you may get something, but
you're not actually like building value.
You're not building value. And a lot of times you can get a better deal for both parties if they're actually like upfront with stuff. And communication is a big one. And for some reason, it's not just this industry right now. It's everybody. Like, just pick up the phone and call. Like, have a conversation. Why are you so afraid? And a lot of it is they don't want to have a conversation because they know that they can't hold themselves over the phone. Like they can't have that conversation. They're afraid of conflict. Well, you can't do business without conflict sometimes. And it doesn't have to be bad conflict. It's just conflict.
Yeah. I mean, that's just part of like a sale or a transaction, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be like that. I know it's kind of interesting how it's almost like this yin and yang where you're like both like agents are all in like a similar circle, but then like they'll hold either one side of it for every transaction. And so like there's that dynamic of like you have to beat other agents, but at the same time interact with them on business transactions.
Yeah.
And
it's something that I'm trying to actually, that's one of my goals in this business in real estate is trying to change to work with more agents on transactions, like partnering on deals, doing different, having that relationship, even if it's on the same deal, like on the buy side or the sell side, because you gain different expertise, you gain different stuff. And a bad reputation or a bad thing that's happened in real estate is it can be very lonely because there's brokerages out there that charge you to work with another agent. And it's
wow.
Why are you charging me to work with another agent, even within my brokerage? Like that's pointless.
That's crazy.
And it's like, no, we should be working as much as we can together because in the end, what are you doing? It's for your client. If you've never done a land listing, don't take the land listing.
Yeah,
or take it, but go call somebody who does land listings.
Yep.
Or if you've never done a condo, or you've never done a mobile home, that's a whole nother topic. But
oh man, I can't imagine.
Yeah, so I think you get the agents who, like, I think that's what really separates out your top and your bottoms are not just going to CE classes for continuing education taught by a lender or whoever, but actually picking a goal. How do I get to this point? Who am I going to work with? How am I going to learn this? What am I going to do? And you'll gain more information and move up faster, even if you never go that direction.
Yeah.
So,
well, this has been awesome. This has been so
this
awesome.
is fun.
This has been a great episode. I feel like we did get into some really good points. So I'm stoked about it. But and also just like on the last note, I'd love to meet you at one of those CE classes.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I would love to show up because we like help sponsor them. And I'd love to show up and you're there and I'm like, perfect.
Yeah. It's and not to do a selfish plug, but my podcast, we talk like all of our examples on the Utah Real Estate Show is all like real bad examples.
Yeah.
Like this really happens. This happened. Hey, this contract fell apart, or this was a lawsuit that was threatened. Why? It was a misunderstanding. Like it's not all sunshines and rainbows. Like there's some bad negative things.
Bad.
And those are the things that make you learn and grow because you're like, oh, that's why this paragraph in the contract is there. It's for this.
Dang.
This is why this is this. What happens if you're in the middle of a transaction and the house burns down?
Wow, that's actually wild.
I'm like, you learn about, hey, well, how do you do this? What about this? Like, there's real stuff, and so I like those in-depth conversations because that's how you grow.
Yep.
There you go. You got to sync the audio, Peter.
Oh, that's easy. That's easy.
God, look at you.
Okay, so we're here with Boo, who actually has been the sponsor of this whole podcast, allowed us to use this beautiful space. So,
hey, happy to be here. Happy to finally be here.
Yeah, it's been maybe 3 or 4 months, and we've never invited him. So he's kind of like the prodigal son.
I had to invite myself.
He kind of did, actually. He was like, so when am I going to be on the podcast? And then he proceeded to say that like five other times.
I almost kept saying no just to keep the joke alive.
I know. I was actually wondering if you were going to say no. Like, no, I would have not.
I never say no to content. Come on, that's rule number 4.
Okay, so we have so much to go over, so I'm just going to jump into it. And I have some fantastic questions for you.
Okay.
Get as spicy as you want on the content. The goal of this is it's short, 15, 20 minutes, and we get some awesome snippets that we can use for social media.
Sweet, let's do it.
So I just want to dive into it, but I feel like we have to first go over a little bit of story. Where you were, where you're at. Let's just start with that.
So started at First Colony Mortgage, was there for 3 years as a loan officer.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm already
Yeah.
learning new things.
Yeah. Came home from my mission on April 23rd, and I started at First Colony Mortgage on the 25th.
Oh,
And so
okay.
this is all I've ever done. So did 3 years as a loan officer there, went to sell for Edge for about 7.5 years, sold a bunch of houses with them, had a great time, realized about kind of going into 2023 that I needed to make a little bit of a change. Didn't really get the courage to do it until about halfway through the year in July. Took a 90-day sabbatical from July till about September, October, and then joined the Perry Group in September. And
Wow.
here we are.
Dang. Okay.
About a year later. So
I love it. I love it. Okay. So clients love the Perry Group. Agents hate the Perry Group.
Yeah.
Walk me through that. But at the same time, it has the fastest growing track of any team, which means like agents hate it, but at the same time, it is growing, which means agents are joining.
yeah, I don't think agents hate it. I think brokers and I think other team leads hate it.
Okay,
Right
so
now.
okay, that's a good correction.
Yeah.
It's the brokerages in Utah Valley that are. What are they seeing? Do you think? One of the things I'm seeing really quick is just when I go to other team meetings, sponsor lunches, they are talking about Zillow, and how their calls and the percentages. I'm not sure how it works, but how because the Perry Group is performing in a certain way, they're able to take all of that. What is that?
The hell if I know, man. I don't. Everyone's gonna attribute different things to different things. For us, Zillow is a fantastic tool that we use to help get our agents into production and to stay in production.
Yeah.
So for us, we absolutely love it. We love the partnership that we have with them. We have a great relationship with them, and I think everyone in their minds, it's the dollar amount that we're spending that's giving us the edge. That's not it. It's the fact that we are the top converting team at Zillow across the United States and in the world.
Whoa,
Yeah,
actually.
we're in the top. We get an email from Zillow once a month that says, "Congratulations, you were in the top 100% for converters last month."
Holy crap. So this is like probably maybe like secret sauce, like how to make whatever. And you don't have to give this away, but
I'll give everything away. I
how?
don't care.
How?
I don't do secrets.
How are you first? Because a lot of times people throw up those numbers and they say like, we need to get them up. And I'm listening like, how are they going to get them up?
Yeah.
And then they don't actually say anything. So how is it that you guys are the top? On
Yeah,
Zillow?
I think that the analytical approach to the business would blow almost everybody away. When you look at the numbers that we're tracking, it's ultra specific. I can give you running totals for where my agents are going to be in 180 days, 365 days. I can tell you exactly where in the process they're not converting. So what that allows us to do is give very nuanced and specific training. So if you're doing a great job of getting the first phone call and the first phone call is going really well, but your appointments are where it's falling off and you're falling off below what our intended conversion rate is, then it's very easy for us to say, okay, your coaching needs to be very specific to how do you set the appointment? How do you make that appointment as good as possible? So it's not just training on Zillow as a whole, but it's giving very nuanced training to wherever that specific agent is struggling in the process.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. I didn't even know you could like look at all those matrix.
Yeah, we had to build it from the ground up. That's where
Okay.
like our systems I think are incredible. It's part of why I joined the Perry Group is because I felt like they had the best systems of any team or brokerage that existed in Utah. And so for me, having access to that from a leadership perspective allows me not to just be training generically, but it allows me to be training very specifically and tactfully.
So what is it like about you specifically where like you are a team builder?
Yeah.
You know, like what has it been like building the Utah Valley part of the Perry Group? And I think it has like almost the same amount or even more agents than the Salt Lake office now.
Yeah, we'll be about 2/3 their size
Okay.
coming into February.
Which is insane because
Yeah,
this has only been around for like a year.
Yeah, so we started in January of 2024. We had 5 agents, including me.
Wow.
Yeah, and today, I mean, once February starts, we have a group of 10 agents onboarding going into the first week of February.
Oh my god.
And so that'll put us somewhere between 60 and 65 agents. And so this is new to me. That's the really fun part for me, Peters. I still feel like I'm learning how to do this.
Yeah.
This is a new skill. Before this, it was just strictly production. I only had to focus on going and selling houses for myself.
Yeah.
And so this has been very, very fascinating to me to watch what skills I have, what skills I don't, and then how to surround myself with some fantastic people to help out in the process, and then let whatever my natural skills may be shine through a little bit.
So I want to ask, like, as a natural team builder, which like in your other jobs, it seems like this wasn't as much of like a part of it.
It wasn't a part of it at all. Yeah.
As a natural team builder, who do you look up to? You have 65 people that look up to you. Who do you look up to? Or what examples have you pulled inspiration from?
Yeah, I think my dad is a fantastic mentor, has always been a fantastic mentor for me. I think watching what Michael has done, Michael was a big reason why I joined the Perry Group. Mm-hmm. When I met them originally in 2019, it was him and 6 of his buddies sitting around putting some Zillow spend on a credit card and just trying to chase it.
Wow.
And so to be able to walk into an organization that has completely been torn down and rebuilt multiple times to be what the Perry Group is today, I look up to how he has done it. And I bounce ideas off of him frequently. I would say Tony Acosta has been one of those people in this office that has absolutely taught me more in a year than most have taught me in my lifetime.
Wow.
Globally, I think what Ryan Serhant is doing on the real estate side in New York City
so cool.
is a massive inspiration. I pull from that very regularly.
So I want to talk just like a little bit about Tony. Tony is like the most unassuming person you meet.
Yeah.
Like I've known him for several months, like maybe even a year at this point, and have never been like, oh yeah, like Tony's this or this or this. And then I went to lunch with him one time and I was like, oh wow, like Tony's
dude is like, a well of knowledge.
He is a well of freaking knowledge.
Yeah.
So what have you learned from Tony?
It'd be impossible. We take 20 minutes just going through the first 10 minutes of what I've learned from Tony Acosta. But I think what I have learned from Tony is Tony is very good at predicting what difficulties we're going to encounter as I try new things. Mm-hmm. And so it's been fantastic just having somebody that can kind of predict the future for us just a little bit, because he's been there and he's done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And then to have somebody that's okay not being the number one person in the office, having somebody that is brand new to this, that he is completely okay to mentor. So some of the questions that I've asked Tony, I would never want to expose myself on this podcast for some of the dumb stuff that I have asked that dude. So for him to have the lack of judgment that he does, the lack of the lack of ego is probably a great way to describe it. Mm-hmm. And it's been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he really is like you'd say like he's a humble person, but at the same time, like you wouldn't even like, it's hard to describe.
Oh, but he's ambitious. The dude has goals.
Yes,
the dude has some massive goals for himself, for this office, for me. And so not wanting to let him down has been a lot of fun.
So, what do you feel like has been your number one goal with this office from the very beginning when you thought of it? And maybe that goal has shifted a little bit or changed, evolved, but what do you feel like has been your vision for this team?
That's a very deep question.
I wanted to get deep.
Yeah, no. And I think for me, it's twofold. Number one, I want to remind, I feel like people have lost sight of the fact that this job is supposed to be fun. Uh-huh. This job is supposed to be really, really fun.
Yeah.
This job is supposed to be cool. And I think somewhere along the way that kind of got muddied from agents that are just not having fun. And the average real estate agent is selling 2 houses a year. So I understand why that wouldn't be fun. And so for me, number one was to have my agents have a lot of fun doing what other people are not having fun doing, because I think that will shine through when you go and sit down with a client. Mm-hmm. Number two, I think the biggest goal that I have for all of my agents is to develop a hyper-local area where their personal brand can stand out. And I think that this is what really ultimately, past the Zillow, is putting me at odds with a lot of team leads and brokers right now in the state. I think there's a lot of team leads out there that feel like, hey, if my agents learn how to go and develop their own lead source, they're going to walk out. If my agents go and learn how to generate their own business, they're just going to go solo. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's true to an extent, but what I think you can do is you can create 60, 70, 80 hyper local real estate agents that all focus on a very specific group and a very specific demographic, and they're going to crush it. Mm-hmm. And they're going to build a brand. I want them to build a brand on social media, which I think that we have done a fantastic job of implementing this year. The amount of agents that we are bringing in that are like, I just saw your guys' stuff everywhere. And I think it's from our agents and my focus on social media for my agents.
I love that. I love the fact that you said one of your goals is just like to bring the fun back into it. And I think it's so true. Like for a lot of agents, there's a lot of stress and like there's all of these dynamics where like we need to perform in this way. But I do feel like even though you guys are like super aggressive with those metrics and like super aggressive with like, we deliver, we are going to make this happen. There's also like this happy energy where it's like, it's fun. Like people, I think like part of the reason like the office is expanding is because people like coming into the office.
Yeah. No, people are absolutely joining because of the energy. They walk in and they're like, this just feels different than where I currently am at right now. And I think it's because you have 60 people now that are all on a very specific unified mission, but it looks different for everybody, but ultimately the goal is the same. The journey is different, but the goal is the same for all of the agents in here. I think real estate is beautiful because there's a million different ways to do this job. If you want to be a new construction specialist, let's go. If you want all of your leads to come from social media, let's go. If you want to be a door knocker, I don't care. Let's do it. And so that I think has been really cool because everybody is unified in the goal of becoming the best of the best in their respective area, but the journey's been different, and people are just, the amount of collaboration that I think is taking place, just where people are pulling bits and pieces from other people's business, has been absolutely beautiful to watch.
Dang, that's amazing. That is amazing. I'm like taken back, honestly. I love that. I feel like that goal was so much deeper than I expected too. I didn't like know what you were gonna say, but like that's just like honestly a beautiful thing.
Well, yeah, and I think for people, they ask why I left and why I'm doing this. And for me, this is it's a weird thing to say at 31, but this is a legacy endeavor for me. This is something I want to be able to look back. Like I am not going to be a team lead when I'm 55. I'm not going to be some 60-year-old broker that's still saying back in my day, this is how we used to sell real estate. And so for me, what I want to be able to do is look back in 10 years and 15 years at the people that are absolutely crushing real estate in the state of Utah and say, they started in my office, they started in my office, and they started in my office. And for me, that's really what this is. And I think that the only way that we can get there is by having fun and forcing the hyper local on our agents.
No, 100%. I think like this is kind of an off tangent in a way, but like they say that Olympians, most of them start when they're like 20, 22, which is crazy because like then they have to be in the Olympics at like 26, 25. But it's because it's better for these people to enjoy a lot of different sports younger, and then they can like hyper focus on one thing, and then that's what takes them to the Olympics. If they start and it's like not that fun, if they get like burnt out quickly, then they don't have that longevity in that pursuit. So people that start when they're like 6 and have been doing it since they're 20, by the time they get 20, they're just done.
And I think that's where a lot of agents are at right now in the industries. They're just done. And so they take on a full-time job and they do this on the side and they work with their brother's friend that has to work with them. and they do their 2 deals a year and they're happy to keep their license and keep their dues going. That's not what we're trying to build in here.
No, I think there is like there's a longevity to showing agents something that's probably the most unique thing I could see here actually is like you're building this like fun team aspect where if you fall, if you support, whatever, what happens is like there is a lot of growth together.
Like I look at like what just the last week was. Met with a builder who we're going to end up representing on a bunch of townhomes. Was riding a 4-wheeler through 254 acres in Spanish Fork Canyon on a new $6 million listing. Had one agent in here that's closing a $4.5 million deal from some senator out of state. I mean, this job can lead to some of the craziest experiences that exist, but only if you put yourself in those situations to have that fun.
Wow, that is amazing. That is awesome. So really quickly, you met with Michael Perry. What was the pitch?
So honestly, the pitch at that time when I first sat down was I looked around and I felt like there wasn't an agent that you could pick and say that agent is the person that represents new developments in the state of Utah. So originally when I joined, that was going to be my goal and my focus. I was not planning on this team lead thing. I was still planning on being in production. And it wasn't until about a month later that Michael and I sat down with a well-renowned real estate coach here in Utah. And he said, well, Michael, you want to expand. And I can't think of anybody better to help you than Boo. And Michael and I looked at each other and we kind of went, and 30 days later, we had the office up and running.
No way. Okay. So it was like, you kind of like fell into it.
This was not, when I left Edge, I had no idea what I was going to go and do. It was super important for me to quit without having anything lined up. I kind of felt like I'd be cheating on my family. if I had it. You know what I mean? It's like, you're married.
Yeah.
If you tell your wife, hey, it's not you, it's me. Something's just broken inside of me and this isn't working anymore. And then you go move into the neighbor's house 2 doors down. 2 days later, she's like, it's not, that's not true.
Yeah.
So I genuinely had no idea what I was going to go and do. And so when Michael and I told Michael I wanted to join the team because I felt like they had systems in place that were very similar to what Edge had in place that allowed me to be successful there. And so I came into this with the idea of production.
Wow. That's crazy. I can't even imagine you in that space. I mean, Bold Eye Media still does some of your listings. I mean, we do a lot of your listings.
I think you do all of them.
I think we do all of your listings. And like you have some heavy hitting listings for sure still. But I did not know that like that was your intention. Was to like be into new builds. Just like on an end note, what is like what is the forecast for new builds with the Perry Group? How does that partnership look? How are you getting into new construction?
So I gave myself a fancy new title yesterday. I am now the director of new construction or new development.
We got to get like a hard hat for you.
I made the title up, so there's absolutely zero weight to it. But to me, like I said, there is no clear number one person that represents new construction. So I have a personal goal. I want to have 150 new builds under representation before the end of the year. We'll be at hopefully 40 by the end of this month, and in 2 hours, I'm going to sit down on an additional 100 units that would put us very close to the 150 that we wanted to have under representation going into February. So there's a massive need for this, but you do have to have some things in place in order to line those up and take them down. Because I think that the reason No Agent has been able to step into that role as the go-to person for new construction is because the nuance that goes into helping represent these builders, most agents, in my experience, don't understand what they need. So I think within a year or two, the goal is going to be 300 to 400 units under representation across anywhere that there are Perry Group agents. So St. George, and then from Nephi up to Davis, Weber County. And into Tooele.
Dang, that is insane. Okay, so you guys are going to be taking over the new builds.
That's the goal. That's my personal production goal.
We are here with our last agent of the episode, Melody Klein. She is my favorite agent. I've always told her that, and I've never told that to another agent. So it's still lasting for you.
I still have the record.
You do. And like I know you don't believe me, but like seriously, you're the only person I've ever said that to. So happy to have you. Melody has just like a fantastic story overall. And then we're going to get into like the nitty gritty about success, what that means to you.
Sure.
In the end, it's just a fun conversation. It's really your podcast. It's not my podcast. So we'll talk about what we need to.
Okay.
Also, this is the first time I've sat in this chair. I've never sat in this chair before.
Looks good.
Yeah.
On you know.
Okay. This is usually where the agents sit. So like it's gonna show in the episode where it's like I'm gonna be sitting there and then the next one's gonna be like blink.
I made him. This is my angle.
Melody has a good side and it's both sides. Okay, so let's just jump into it because I have so much I want to ask you. Thanks for making it.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, thanks for making it all the way down. How long was the drive?
About an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do love Utah County. Driving down here, it's usually the traffic that's preventative, but at this hour there wasn't. It wasn't too bad, and the day's stunning. There's not too much inversion, so I had a gorgeous view of the mountains, and it's I listen to my podcast. It's therapeutic a little bit,
Nice.
Pump myself up.
What podcast did you listen to?
I love Brian Buffini's It's a Good Life because his podcast is a good balance of like not just business motivation. It's like an overall mental clarity, personal journey. It's a good balance, and that's more my speed. When you drill me too much on the business side, you will lose me.
Yeah.
I think as humans, as real estate agents, we wear so many hats, and we have to be balanced ourselves. Otherwise, how would you people are reliant to have that balance and that sense of calm and comfort. And if you don't have that yourself, it's hard to, it's hard to share that. It's hard to give your people like that sense of comfort and reassurance, right? When you don't have that balance yourself.
That's actually perfect, because that's what I wanted to talk to you about, was like one of the ways that you are a top agent is you bring the personal into the business. And so how do you make business personal? Like, what is your...
Just because I have a call.
Oh yeah, you're good.
This part up.
She's getting personal with it right now. Takes her clients first at all times.
It's another agent. Sorry.
No, yeah, I'll ask it one more time.
Yeah.
So a lot of agents get to the top 1% by doing different tactics. The tactic you've done is personalization. You have relationships with your clients.
I do.
What has been the benefit and maybe the drawback of that?
The drawback would be sometimes the boundaries are blurred. You know, I do get calls on text sometimes really late at night or super early in the morning, and I have an OCD where I have to respond as soon as I physically can, and conversations draw out late into the night when I don't need to do that. You know, it doesn't affect the transaction. The positive side to it is I don't advertise. I'm not, you know, not to say that there's anything bad. I have nothing against that, but I'm 100% referral and repeat agent. So any new business is due to people kind of shutting me out. And that I would say that's a reason for that. People do feel like I'm their family. I get invited to all their birthday parties and their
That's
anniversary
amazing.
things and their baby showers, and it's super fun. And then there you get to meet their friends and family, and
Wow, that's actually
you
crazy.
expand and grow from there.
So how do you feel like you've helped build that personal side of the relationship with your clients where you actually do care and they can see it, so they invite you to like very personal events like a baby shower?
I don't know that, like, I'm just being me, and to a fault. Like sometimes I'll say things that are maybe not very professional. You know, I speak my mind and it's too straightforward sometimes, and it's like working with a family member where there is like, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, it's
That
almost
could be
like
a drawback too.
Yeah, in a way, it's like you are so good at personalizing the relationship, but then it's like everyone is your family in a way.
Yeah.
But like honestly, it's kind of beautiful to see how much your clients interact with you versus sometimes like we've been inside your listings before and seen how you interact with your clients, and they like you. And that's like not something that you see every single time.
I think to stay humble and human.
Yeah. My goal today is to make you so proud.
As best I can. But really I'm really just being myself the whole time. So I'm sure that authenticity, and showing that human side, you know, that I'm human and there are times where I make mistakes and I am at fault. But, you know, I apologize for mistakes that I make.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, so this is kind of a deeper question, and you can take whatever angle you want on it.
all right.
What does success look like for you? You've been in the business for how many years?
This will be my 5th year.
5th year? Really? This is only your 5th year? I thought you've been in for like 15 years.
So actually I got licensed in September
What the heck? Actually,
2020.
this is your 5th year.
So this is like my 4th full year. Yeah.
I'm blown away. I actually thought you had been in the industry for like 10
years,
15 years.
I look it.
No. Okay, I'll say it again. Your career shows that you've been in the industry for like 10 years, but you're only been in the industry for 5. What does success look like for you?
So
And you can answer that if you need to.
Tom Brokaw, he's a journalist. He said it's easier to make a buck. It's harder to make an impact. Deep, right?
Yeah, that is deep. I'm like, you're hitting it.
But that has been marinating in my mind kind of early on, you know, when I look for a quote for success on my vision board, because I mean, I'm competitive, I'm driven, I'm always going to want to do more and I do, it is a very tangible measurement when you look at the production volume and the transaction amount. But at the end of the day, it is what you have done, what real estate agents do is really helping people through real estate. You could be helping an elderly person or couple thinking that they can never move out of their split level or multi-level home because they don't want to take on another mortgage, but then you introduce them to a lender that is an expert at a reverse mortgage, and then it changes their viewpoint, it changes their life. It's better for them and their kids to assist them through the house. So that's been a recent experience of mine. And then you're telling first-time home buyers, like you're telling them you have actually all these grants that is accessible to you, and it's not impossible, because that's like the message of you can't is so loud.
Yeah.
So you have to be twice as loud when you tell people you can, you can make all these goals, you can help veterans house hack and gain wealth through multiple properties because, when they retire from military, it might be a difficult transition. Right?
Wow, that's awesome.
So you have to wear all these hats and be almost like a wealth coach to all these people in different facets of their life.
So how do you keep this? You said it's competitive. You're a competitive person. How do you keep that feeling of success where there is so much competition? How do you feel like you do enough? How do you know when enough is enough? Does that make sense?
That's a good question. And to be honest with you, I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable with you for a moment. A lot of times I don't feel like I'm doing enough. So to be a little personal for a minute, I was a single mom and I juggled 3 jobs for the first 3 to 5 years of my kid's life, right?
3 to 5 jobs.
Three jobs when my kids were 3 and 5, up to their ages 3 and 5. Sorry.
But if you have 3 jobs and 2 kids, that's now 5 jobs.
That's 5
so
jobs.
it's actually right.
But I missed out on so many crucial moments of their lives that it still haunts me. It still hurts me to think about. So right now, all I am focused on is, again, the impact that I'm making on families' lives, that they are happy where they're at. Or if they're not happy, we make a plan to eventually find a home that will fit perfectly what their needs are. But in the meantime, I will never sacrifice, again, my family life for a buck, for So
money.
When I look at top producers and where my personal numbers are, it is very inspiring. It is like a ruler that I want to kind of one day measure up to. But I give myself a pat on the back for kind of juggling and managing a few things well, that I now don't feel like I'm sacrificing my family life and my relationships, Do I work a ton? Yes, I do. But I try to do it in a way that, and I'm very fortunate to work with clients that understand that I have my own schedule, that my kids, I have to drop off my kids at this time and at this time, and they accommodate that. At the beginning, I was afraid to insist, this is my schedule, can you work with that?
Yeah.
Because that is scary.
Yeah.
Because who are you? You're actually my boss, right?
Yeah.
But I tried it, and it didn't deter people from working with me. So now I am more focused on, or making sure somebody else is able to be there for my kids and their things. But I try hard not to miss their games, their competition, and just be there.
So I love that. Honestly, I love that. And it's something that you have to learn over time. because like probably the first 2 years, 3 years, it was not that way.
Right.
But then you gained that.
You gain that confidence.
You gain that
and-
confidence.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, so some people cold plunge, some people meditate. What is your ritual? Like, it doesn't have to be either of those things, but like,
Okay.
what is your ritual to like stay sane?
Okay, I have a ton of respect for people that cold plunge. I cannot do it. My husband cold plunge and does his ice bath after workouts.
Oh,
I
wow.
would do a sauna.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I would do a sauna.
And it doesn't have to be like fitness based.
Yeah.
It's more of just like, how do you keep
Right.
yourself
Centered.
Centered. Yes,
Yes.
that's the word I'm looking for.
Working out, I think at least 2 to 3 times a week, just endorphins, right? I think that's pretty crucial. And I love podcasts, you know, so
nice.
I'm really glad you're doing this. I hope, you know, and I'm sure it will inspire some people to take action in some way or form, right? But listening to positive affirmations, again, having family time too, because that centers me back to reality, back to my why. I do yoga at least once a week.
Oh, wow.
Traveling. You know,
You travel too? Wait, so how do you travel with real estate? Because I know it gets dicey.
It gets
right?
dicey.
You're such a like localized based business. So how does traveling?
affect. How do I play a part into it?
Yeah.
So I think traveling, seeing the world is a must. You know,
And you've gone to some cool places too, right? Like all over Asia.
I love traveling to Asia just because that's my home. But I want to see more. I want to see the world, you know?
Yeah.
I think as do you, right?
Where do you want to go next then?
I would love to go back to Australia.
Whoa, you've already been to Australia.
Yeah, as a kid
Dang.
with my mom and dad and my siblings. But I would love to bring my husband and my family, my kids, to Australia again. That's traveling is both motivating because, you know, usually you spend thousands of dollars for a trip. So you
Yeah.
know you have to make that, right? So it's motivating. It is, you create memories when you're traveling. And it's also like, I like to go more, I don't like busy cities when I travel. I like to go to more rural beaches, and that's therapeutic, you know. But how I manage it is you prep your clients that you'll be gone here and here, so there's no surprises, but you fill them in with kind of a backup agent or a co-agent
Oh,
that
interesting.
will step in whenever you need. I have a really great transaction coordinator now, so she's doing all the paperwork. So I feel more at peace when I am away.
Yeah.
I have people to help and assist.
Good.
But also it's a lot of times that's when transactions are happening too. I'll be driving to St. George and writing up an offer. I've done that.
At the same time.
At the same time, taking calls at the beach. You're needed when you're needed. You know,
Yeah.
even when there are people that fill in for you, you're never truly offline. So it's the life you sign up for.
Yeah, seriously. So I wanted to end with one question. A lot of people have a career and they get on a career path and they kind of chose that path. Real estate seems like it is opposite of that. A lot of people get chosen by real estate. Does that make sense? It's like people fall into it without knowing. So what is your
It's
story?
like the force.
Well, it's like the force. No, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people, if they're like accounting, then they go to school for accounting. But like, I feel like real estate kind of just draws people and they never expected themselves to be a real estate agent, but then they just become one. So how did you fall into real estate? Or how do you feel like your relationship with real estate has been?
So my draw to real estate is really my parents heavily emphasizing that real estate is an investment. It is really the best, most stable tool for wealth building. So that's always been ingrained in me as a child. So I was very close to being homeless when I initially separated and divorced with my first husband. Single income was hard.
Wow.
But thankfully, my parents sold a few lots and properties from Malaysia. And you have to know, like, it's 4-to-1 conversion rate. So they sold quite a bit too. They made a huge sacrifice for me to be able to make sure that I have a home. Investment, stocks, money, that's one thing. You can never replace having shelter, like a safe, cozy shelter of your very own. So it's an investment tool, but it's more than that, right? It's where you and your family will grow up, create memories, invite people over for dinner and such.
So it was like almost, so it sounds like it's like your intro to real estate was that you almost were homeless, and then you realized the importance of real estate, of like having a house and like the value of that, and you're like, wow, I want to help people.
Yeah, I think a lot of you have two kinds of people. Some renters, they never have a goal of owning a home because, and it's the gap is increasing, right? From 10 years ago now, 30 years from now, it's ever increasing. The gap from renting and home ownership. So if you're hyper focused on the month to month, it is hard to sacrifice that play money to be an adult.
It's kind of like a decrease in lifestyle in some ways.
Yeah, you have to kind of make sacrifices, to make home ownership. But I don't know anybody that owned a home and say, oh, I wish I was renting. Do you know?
No, I don't. I don't know anybody.
Yeah, exactly. So over time, I think someone that sees the importance of not just having shelter, but like having a home. Could be so many things, It could be a gateway to your second property, all of that. So I think to really be an agent or to be a successful, top producing agent, you have to have the vision. You have to sell the dream, not just like sell a home, because that's more transactional and you might not be.
Interesting.
You have to sell that a home is all these things and more.
And that's how you can justify the price.
Yeah,
and kind of like the commitment.
The commitment.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, well, I've asked the questions that I was super excited to ask. I know this goes really quick. Was there anything you wanted to add? Any last message you want to share? Anything that comes to mind? If not, it's been a great episode.
I just want to say that I am a solo real estate agent, but I could not do this alone. I think that it goes without saying that you rely heavily on your partners, your home inspection companies, your lenders, your videographers, and your transaction coordinators, your broker. So it took me some time, but I really think I have my team nailed down, and I think there's only going up from here. No matter what the market is doing, I feel very good that my trajectory is going to be up from here. So.
I believe so. I mean, it's always going up. You're amazing. Honestly, inspiration to me. You make it really fun, and I can see how much you really do care about your clients. And that's like the biggest thing that I see the difference. It's like, it's not really a transaction for you. There is something personal that you do when you help it, like your clients.
Thank you. There's a transactional side to it, but there's also more to it. Is the relationship side to it. That's how you build a lasting clientele base.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me.